Dobrý den. In this video, we are going to talk about words such as strašný, hrozný, or pěkný, and strašně, hrozně, and pěkně. I chose this topic because one of you asked me a question a few months ago why we can say děkuju pěkně, and you will find it out later today. Strašný and hrozný are adjectives, and they both describe something terrible, awful. You could say, byla to hrozná zkušenost, byla to strašná zkušenost. It was a terrible experience. Byla to hrozná zkušenost. Pěkný, on the other hand, is an adjective that describes something pleasant or pretty. You can wish someone a nice day. Pěkný den. However, in informal conversation, we often use strašný or hrozný or strašně and hrozně to describe something nice, to emphasize intensity, even when we're talking about something pleasant. Strašně se těším. Strašně se těším. I'm so looking forward to it. Strašně se těším. Terribly looking forward to it. On the other hand, pěkný or pěkně can be used to describe something unpleasant, like this. Pěkně mě bolí hlava. My head really hurts. Pěkně mě bolí hlava. Actually, as you can translate pěkně as pretty, in English you can also use pretty to describe intensity of something. You can say my head hurts pretty badly, but it's still confusing. And because these expressions are so common in everyday conversations, I want you to be ready when you hear them and understand how we actually use them. Jdeme na to. Ahoj, vítejte na mém kanále Czech by Zuzka, kde vám pomocí angličtiny vysvětluju českou gramatiku. First, I want to take a look at the adjective strašný, hrozný, and pěkný in context. For example, if you want to intensify how boring something was, you could say, byla to strašná nuda. It was terribly boring. Byla to hrozná nuda. The same. Or byla to pěkná nuda, which is very, very similar. Both meaning it was really boring. You could also replace these by velká. Byla to velká nuda. Keep in mind that nuda in Czech is a noun. So we can use an adjective to intensify it. We can say it was a big boredom or a terrible boredom. These expressions are used in informal Czech. If you say velká nuda, it would be neutral. It would mean it was really boring. Byla to velká nuda. So remember that velká is neutral. And if you use strašná, hrozná, pěkná, it's expressive. Byla to pěkná nuda could also be translated as it was pretty boring, but not exactly. I feel like if you say it was pretty boring, it means it was a bit boring. But in Czech, if you say byla to pěkná nuda, it was very boring. If you're really hungry, you could say mám strašný hlad. Mám hrozný hlad. Or mám pěkný hlad. All these three mean I'm really hungry. And again, we say I have hunger, so we can say I have a big hunger, I have a terrible hunger, I'm terribly hungry. To je strašný problém. This is a terrible problem. To je hrozný problém, the same. To je pěkný problém. For these two sentences, I used the colloquial ending in Czech. Instead of saying strašný, I used strašný because it's more natural. If we're using these words, we would probably speak colloquially. So this is typical for the masculine noun, the endings with a in the adjectives. I also covered this in one of my videos if you're interested. If you want to sound neutral, you could say mám velký hlad or more formal, mám velký hlad. I have big hunger. But typically we would say mám strašný hlad. I'm terribly hungry. Mám pěkný hlad. I'm so hungry. Let's take a look at these expressions again. It was terribly boring. Byla to strašná nuda, hrozná, pěkná nuda. We want to intensify a situation that's not fun, something negative. As well as here, when someone's hungry, it's not fun. So we want to intensify how hungry we are, how bad this is. Mám strašný hlad. To je strašný Problém hrozný, problém pěkný, problém. Problem is related to something negative, right? So you can see that we can use all these three to emphasize something negative. I also want to tell you that if we use pěkný or pěkná, the adjective to emphasize something not pleasant, we often use it with this word teda. To je teda pěkná nuda, which means, well, this is really boring. The word teda or tedy doesn't have a direct translation here, but we could say something like, well, this is really boring. To je teda pěkná nuda. This is a common connection. Teda pěkná. To je teda pěkná nuda. Já mám teda pěkný hlad. To je teda pěkný problém. Now let's take a look at the adverbs strašně, hrozně and pěkně. We use them in the same way to intensify the experience. In this case, we'll be working with verbs, or if we want to say how much we have of something. If you're really scared, then you say strašně se bojím. This plant is hiding it. Strašně se bojím. I am terribly afraid. Hrozně se bojím. The same. Pěkně se bojím is also possible. Pěkně se bojím. This is the same case we saw at the beginning. Strašně mě bolí hlava. You could also say hrozně mě bolí hlava, pěkně mě bolí hlava. I have a pretty bad headache. If you taste a disgusting chocolate, you could say, ugh, ta čokoláda je strašně hnusná. Strašně hnusná, hrozně hnusná, pěkně hnusná. That chocolate is really disgusting. I also showed you that we can use teda together with pěkně. It's typical, so we could also use it here. Ta čokoláda je teda pěkně hnusná. Well, the chocolate is pretty disgusting. Very expressive. If you're feeling unwell, like really, really unwell, you're sick, you could say, je mi strašně blbě, je mi hrozně blbě, je mi pěkně blbě. I feel very sick. Or if you want to say, I have so much stuff, a lot of stuff, you could say, mám strašně moc věcí. Terribly a lot of things. Mám hrozně moc věcí. Strašně moc, hrozně moc. Or you could say, mám strašně moc práce. I have an awful lot to do. An interesting thing is here pěkně doesn't sound good. We don't say mám pěkně moc. Pěkně moc is not something we say. Pěkně moc doesn't go together. So remember, we can also intensify verbs with strašně, hodně and pěkně, or intensify the quantity, but not pěkně moc. Strašně moc, hrozně moc. So can we always use these three? Strašně, hrozně, pěkně, or strašný, hrozný, pěkný? No. I'll show you some examples. Remember the word with nuda. Byla to strašná nuda. It was really boring. Strašná nuda, hrozná nuda, pěkná nuda. And if we replace nuda by sranda, which is an informal word for fun, it was a lot of fun, we can say byla to strašná sranda, byla to hrozná sranda, byla to pěkná sranda. It's not what we say. I'll tell you why in a few seconds. This time you got a really good chocolate and you want to share it with someone. You say, taste this, it's really, really good. Ochutnej, je to strašně dobrý, je to hrozně dobrý. It's terribly good. You cannot say, je to pěkně dobrý. Doesn't work. And let's see one more. Maybe you will start understanding why. I'm really looking forward to it. We saw that at the beginning. Strašně se těším, or hrozně se těším. It doesn't matter. Pěkně se těším does not work. So, it does not work here. Let's see what kind of experience this is. Byla to strašná sranda. Is sranda good? Having fun is good. It's a positive experience. Strašná and hrozná sranda. Positive. Uchutnej, je to strašně dobrý. If something is really good, that's positive. Strašně dobrý, hrozně dobrý, it's positive. Strašně se těším, hrozně se těším. If you're really excited, that's also good. It's positive. If we want to intensify a positive experience, we cannot use pěkně or pěkný because it's already positive. Unless we want to use the literal meaning of this word pěkný, like pretty, or that something was done in a pretty way. If we mean it literally, then we use pěkně, such as pěkně jste to uvařili. You cooked this really nicely. I like the way it looks. I like the way you work together. Pěkně jste to uvařili. When it is something negative or maybe sometimes neutral, we can use all three usually. But remember, strašně moc, hrozně moc, but not pěkně moc. They don't work together. And pěkně or pěkný is commonly used with teda. To je teda pěkně hnusný. Ta čokoláda je teda pěkně hnusná. How else can we use pěkně besides to say that something was really awful or that it was done nicely, literally? We also typically use it with verbs if we want to say that something will be done thoroughly, because pěkně could be a synonym of doing something very well, pořádně, thoroughly or properly. Sometimes also showing a lot of patience. You could say to a child, for example, tak pěkně tady zůstaň. This is a very friendly tone. You're showing patience. Pěkně tady zůstaň. Stay right here. Pěkně tady zůstaň. You could also say it in a firm tone. Tak, pěkně tady zůstaň, ani se nehni. Just stay right here, don't move. We could be both firm or kind with this word. Pěkně. Pěkně tady zůstaň. Or this sentence. A kindergarten teacher could say, tak a teď si to pěkně zopakujeme. And now let's go over it properly, really well. And for example, you could say, tak a teď to tady necháme pěkně vařit. And now let's just let it cook here nicely or properly. Necháme to tady pěkně vařit. And let me give you one more sentence. It can be said in two ways. Tak. A ty tady pěkně počkáš a budeš pěkně sticha. Okay, you'll wait right here and you will be nice and quiet in a friendly tone. Pěkně tady počkáš. We could be talking to a child, but what do we say? Tak, a ty tady pěkně počkáš a budeš pěkně sticha. That's a little bit intimidating because of the tone, so it's a forceful tone. It's the same sentence with a different tone, both using the words pěkně. So be careful, you need context. And now we're finally getting to the question that one of my viewers had. How is it with the verb děkovat if you say thank you? In Czech you can say terribly thank you, strašně moc děkuju, hrozně moc děkuju, or you can just say strašně děkuju, já ti strašně děkuju. Remember, we're emphasizing something positive because saying thanks is positive. Strašně děkuju, it's typical with moc, so strašně moc děkuju, thanks terribly much. Hrozně moc děkuju, positive. So if you want to say thank you very much, it doesn't work with pěkně. You cannot say pěkně děkuju in this word order. Pěkně děkuju means something else, and we will see it very soon. So if you want to say informally, thanks a ton, thank you so much, strašně moc děkuju, hrozně moc děkuju. But you probably heard the word pěkně with děkuju. People could say děkuju pěkně, smile. They mean it genuinely. They mean thank you kindly. Děkuju pěkně. What is important? The word order here is important. We say děkuju pěkně. Thank you kindly. Děkuju pěkně. What happens if you hear this? It would probably be something like pěkně děkuju. Sarcasm. To ti teda pěkně děkuju. So remember, if you want to say thank you kindly, you would say děkuju pěkně. Or you could just express it with strašně moc děkuju. Remember, that's informal. All these expressions are informal. And if you say pěkně děkuju, it's not kind. You're being sarcastic. Well, thanks a lot. Okay, so I think you're ready for an exercise. This is what you're gonna do. In these 7 sentences, you're going to use the words hrozný, strašný, pěkný or hrozně, strašně, pěkně to intensify the experience and to make these sentences even more informal. Remember, sometimes you can use all 3, sometimes you cannot use pěkně or pěkný. Pause the video a jdeme na to. Číslo 1. Here we can use all 3. To je strašná blbost, hrozná blbost, pěkná blbost. Remember, we could also say to je teda pěkná blbost. Číslo 2. Máme ještě strašně moc času, hrozně moc času, pěkně moc času doesn't work. Číslo 3. Mluvil strašně rychle, hrozně rychle, mluvil pěkně rychle. All 3. Číslo 4. Ty boty byly strašně levný, hrozně levný. Levný as in cheap, usually expresses something positive. We saved some money, it's a positive experience. So pěkně levný doesn't sound natural unless you want to say that it was bad quality, but I don't think it would be very common. We can say pěkně drahý, very expensive, not pěkně levný. Číslo 5. Strašně dobře mi to vysvětlil. Hrozně dobře mi to vysvětlil. Pěkně doesn't work because it's a positive experience. Pěkně dobře doesn't work. Číslo 6. To představení se nám strašně líbilo, hrozně líbilo. Líbilo is a positive experience. We cannot say pěkně líbilo. Číslo 7. What about this one? Strašně moc se omlouvám, hrozně moc se omlouvám. First of all, because there is moc. Moc doesn't go with pěkně. Even if we just had omlouvám se, strašně se omlouvám, hrozně se omlouvám, pěkně se omlouvám simply doesn't work. It will just sound a bit off. It's expressing empathy. Just like děkovat and omlouvat se are typically not used with pěkně. Okay, this is all from me. Feel free to write more sentences using these words. Děkuju, že jste se dívali a uvidíme se za týden. Ciao.